Hello, and in this video we start with iteration number 6, and from this iteration and the next one we are introducing the navigation to introducing a second view and a different set of tasks. So we start first with the problem definition, problem formulation, what exactly we're going to do in this iteration. Which defines the scope. So our scope here is to create a second or add a second view and navigate back and forth. It's a very simple task and we'll do that. And then step number 2 is solution formulation. We follow the model view controller. So in the model, there is no change and there is no model. In fact, there is. We're adding a new view controller to our project, but let's not worry about that here. In the view, that's really where all the action is happening in this iteration. So in the view, I need to add a second view, a second screen. A screen is actually made of two things: a view controller, which is invisible, and a view, which is visible. That's what you see and what the user see. The view controller is the connection to the controller that you have. Then we need to make our own custom controller because we're going to do a few things in that second view. So we need to add a custom view controller to the project and connect the two together. Actually, that might be our controller step. Here in the view, after adding the second screen, we will need to navigate between the two. So how do we navigate between the two? We use something called navigation controller. It's a library. Again, another invisible library, but has the ability to create a stack of screens and allow you to navigate between those screens. The controller will just add a custom controller to the project, and we're not going to do anything in it, but we just need to have it there. And then in the solution implementation, step number 3, we will work on the storyboard to add a new UI view controller or a new view controller or a screen or view, and it comes with its own view. As you will see, we need to add navigation controller and wrap the first view and the second view in that navigation controller. And then we need to create a custom controller and connect it to the new screen. Connect to the new screen. Alright, so let's go ahead and get to work. So I need the utility area and I need to switch to the storyboard, and I don't need this document outliner. So first thing, this is still going to be my initial view. One of the things when you add another controller is that which one will be the first one. So this is our controller. In the object area, here is the view controller. So you can drag one, as you can see, it grows to be a screen with the same size as the one that you already have. So here is our second screen. So now I have two screens in my storyboard. Which one is the first one? This arrow indicates which one is the first. So if you want this to be the first, you point to it. If you want this to be the first, you point to it. And the second question is, how do you go from one to the other? Navigation between screens is an involved task. You can worry about it and learn all about it, or you can find the library that does it for you. It's better to find the library that does it for you. So if you go to the screen that will be the first, go to the editor area on your storyboard and on Xcode menu. Under the embed in, you can embed a view in a navigation controller. You can embed a screen in a navigation controller. There's also a tab bar controller if you would like to use that. So we'll go to navigation controller and click enter, and notice here what happened. It added this controller to the first view controller. Let me bring the other one too here so you can see it. Maybe I can take this out for now. So here are all three of them. The navigation controller is invisible. The view controller, that's what the user will see. The whole purpose of the navigation controller is manage navigation. Notice since the navigation controller is going to manage navigation of a screen that is the first to be viewed, the navigation controller became the first. So how does the navigation controller connect to this view controller? Here is this thing which is called a segue. This is a relationship segue. If you click on the utility area and go to the identity, none of these is showing us anything. All right. So you can see it here. It says the relationship between the two, and this is a relationship between the two from the navigation controller to the view controller. Notice also that there's a navigation bar that got added, a navigation item here that got added to the screen. That's where you can put your navigation bar and other items. There are attributes. You can put a title, you can put a prompt, and you can specify a name for the back button. And that's it. You can run. When you run, you will not see a change because the navigation controller is invisible, so everything should look the same, except now we have this navigation, the navigation item here, but everything should still work the same. Notice I cannot get to the second screen. So I have to find a way to get to that second screen. That's what navigation is. So to get to the second screen, something needs to happen on the first screen that will result in launching the second screen. One of those actions is that the user takes an action. We can give the user something to do. This could be a swipe, or the easier for us is a button. Give the user a button. We can take a button from here, put it somewhere, or if you scroll down, there is a specific navigation button. So go down, and then there is a bar button item. There's an item and a toolbar or a navigation item object. So a bar button item, drag that, and you notice that the navigation item has a place on the right and a place on the left where you can put that navigation, the bar button item. So we put a bar button item, and the bar button item has a style. You can also, there are some custom identifiers that you can have here in any of those, or you can specify what you want. So we can say what exactly we want. So we'll say go or move or anything you want. You can put an image that show you what to go. You can put a background color in here if you want to the what it says, to the identifier. Color, not a background, a color to the identifier. So now I added that button, and it will look like that. Then I can connect to that button with Control, drag from that button to the second screen. Notice how it highlights the entire screen. Release, and it will tell you here there's an action segue. There are multiple ones, multiple types of action segue. A segue is a transition from one screen to the other. So basically you have multiple ways to transition, and a segue is a library, UI storyboard segue. So we'll use the show, which basically a symbol one that shows the second screen. And notice it's selected one here. If you click on it, it shows where the connection is coming from. And you can specify a name. In many screens, there will be more than one segue, not just one. So a name will be important. Here, it's going to be only one segue because we're only moving from one screen to the other. So I'm not going to worry about that for now. If you changed your opinion about the type, you can come back here and make a change to the type. And that's all about the segue. So now let's test this and see if I'm able to move between the two. So here is, I made a color, click go, I move to the second screen, click back, and I am back to this. Where did this back button come from? That's what the navigation controller has done. And the show segue is one of those simple ones because it automatically gives you that back button. So now I'm able to navigate from one screen to the other. And what I'm going to do next is I want to take that color that I selected with these values, move it to the second screen, and use it here somehow. We can use it to change this background color, or we can use it to paint on the second screen, and we'll show both of them. Since when I move to the second screen, I'm going to do something here, I need to change the controller of the second screen to be a custom controller. Let's go to the Identity Inspector after selecting the second screen. So I'm selecting the second screen in the Identity Inspector. Look under class, it says UI View Controller. It meaning that the controller of this second screen is the default library controller. Whereas in the first screen, we had our own custom class. In the second, it is the default library, the default controller. The default controller can do default things. So still the app works. You saw here, the app worked. The controller was able to show us a view that's empty and able to take us back because it integrates and works together with the navigation control. These are tasks that the default library is able to do. What it's not able to do is to take the color and do something that is custom. So then we need to come and add another controller. I have a view controller file that I link to the first control. Then I need another one to link to the second control. To add another controller file like this, you can either click on the project, right click and say new file, or you can go to file on Xcode and say new file, or you can use Command N. When you select a new file, we are with iOS, you can go to source, a source code file. One of the types is the Swift file. And that's what we need because we're using Swift as the language. So we select a Swift file. Ask you, what name do you want to call this file? I'm going to call it color view controller. If you want to tag the file, and where do you want to save it? Do you want it to be under this initial group, or I'm going to put it under this group so that it's in the same group as these files, and then create the file, and it creates an empty file for us here. So this empty file, as you can see, and there should be a template file that can give us a lot of other stuff. Oh, I'm selecting source here under OS X. That's why. Need to select a source under iOS, not OS X. But it's working the same, so you can say where to save it. I don't need to do that. I need to see where it tells me to set it up. I want to create it. Alright. So to create a file here, we'll need to add that information similar to what we had in this. We have to add a name for the file and the type of the file. I thought that the template will do that for us. In this case, it didn't do it, which is okay. So you can see how we add that part. Class, so we specify class, and this tells us this is a Swift class or a Swift subclass. We are building the view controller based on the UI view controller, similar like the other one. So we call this the color view controller, and it is based on the UI view controller. It is complaining about that. If you go back to view controller, that Swift, since we used UI view controller, we imported UIKit. The import brings in the library, and Xcode can help you with that. It says it doesn't know what that is. So I need to come here and import the UIKit library. Then you put what you want about your class. I have the method override, view did load. And these are all the different functions, the life cycle function that the default view controller has. This came to us before in the previous one from the template, and for whatever reason we didn't see that here. But here it is, and I'm just duplicating what we had in the on this one. Now that I have a class color view controller, and that is extending the UI view controller, I can go to the storyboard here, select, and instead of the default class, I link to the color view controller. So scroll all the way, and if you don't, here it is. If you didn't see it, and I have seen that sometimes that it doesn't show here, go ahead and type it. But now I have a color view controller, meaning that it is connected and managed by this custom controller. So what we did in this video is we added another view controller, embedded the original screen in a navigation controller, created a bar button item to navigate from the first one to the second using a show segue. Then we added a custom view controller and connected that custom controller to the second. And that results in our ability to navigate from one screen to the next and go back. So in the next video, we'll go ahead and see how we can use this segue that establishes basically a channel of communication between the first view and the second in order to transfer the data, the colors, from the first view to the second view, and then use those colors to color that background.